Hi everyone, so this will be a counter analysis video against some of the points that a lot of online forums and YouTubers in particular make about Kokomi without actually playing the character or having built the character properly. So what do I mean by that is I've seen a couple of videos which will discuss how I feel about Kokomi's constellations without actually having them and without actually playtesting them in the Spiral Abyss, mind you. And a lot of the YouTubers would be like, yeah, this is rubbish, this is maybe good, and this is like, why does it come with a condition pretty bad? So let us do a bit of myth busting on Kokomi. But before we do that, if you're a free-to-play player, I will link a video below which shows Kokomi in a very similar team comp. So in other words, like the one you see on screen, Kokomi, Rosaria, Beidou, Xingshu, I think they just sort of substitute out the Rosaria for a official. But essentially, another free-to-play player with an actual C0 Kokomi has cleared, with this sort of team, the Spiral Abyss 9 stars. Pretty competitive against something like the national team, which just goes to demonstrate to you this isn't a bait banner, this is an actual proper good banner, and hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate it on my alternative account, my C0 Kokomi account, for you guys once that's ready, but that'll have to wait. First thing to myth bust about Kokomi, her charge attack takes way too much stamina. Well, the same can be said for Barbara as well. She also takes 50, in fact all the catalyst users in the game, and if you don't believe me, just go to their talents, skill attributes, 50 charge stamina cost. That is not a Kokomi problem, that is a problem with the class, and MiHoYo can decide to keep her or buff it. In my opinion, doesn't really matter, it's pretty fine as is. The other big problem I've got is a lot of people will go on the internet and they'll take a 50k Zhongli and they'll reduce them to 1 health, and then they'll go to Barbara and they'll press Q, and the Zhongli has miraculously recovered 50k or 46k HP, and then they'll tell you Kokomi can't do it, therefore Barbara's better. Of course, you guys know me, I'm all about actually demonstrating stuff in a practical example. So in the Spiral Abyss, you all know that when we actually play, the purpose of Kokomi is to enable your damage dealers. So why on earth do you need 46k healing when most of your damage dealers will have less than 20k HP? And if they've got more than 20k HP and their name is not Hu Tao, then obviously you are sacrificing damage and for your HP. So you want your damage dealers, except for Hu Tao of course, to have less than 20k HP. And if you looked at some of my other videos that I've done on the channel, this little Kokomi jellyfish healed up my Raiden Shogun from 7k HP all the way full. That's like, I think, 10.3k healing, and that's more than good enough every 2 seconds. I don't need a Barbara. I don't want to swap out of my Raiden burst to Barbara to press Q and then swap back, and now my burst is offline. I just want a character that will consistently enable my character to just do damage and do her charge attacks without having to now use staminas to try and avoid like damage. And that's because a character like the Raiden Shogun has interruption to resistance when she's in her ultimate, so that means she can just go and attack. She doesn't need to worry about dodging, particularly if you've got an off-field jellyfish healing her. A subtle point that not a lot of content creators will ever tell you about because they don't know the game really that well. Right, let's go and do some more myth busting. Kokomi, first constellation, lots of people tell you it's useless because, and this is a direct quote, you can just do a jump cancel here, and these 2 extra jellyfish will do way more damage than an end-free sort of a cycle. That's absolutely rubbish, and the reason why that's rubbish is because their Kokomis are not built properly. Once you've got a properly built Kokomi, that is HP, Hydro, healing, and no trying to use HP here or substituting HP for your Hydro Goblet does not work. Been there, I've tried it, I can tell you, this configuration does the most damage. So my conclusions is from a lot of playtesting that unless your Kokomi is like badly built, you will see one will generally out DPS an early charge or an early jump cancel. That's just what it is. This constellation is absolutely broken. By accelerating your healing, again, people don't understand 4.5% of max HP doesn't seem like a lot. It is a lot. And it is the difference between constantly keeping your main damage dealers topped up at their max health, unlike a character like Bennet, which can only keep them up to 70. So your main damage dealers can do a lot of damage. So this constellation accelerates your healing, during your burst, and just in terms of your off-field, like your usual jellyfish. It's very strong. I've got lots of practical examples of where this really accelerates the healing, to a point that I'll say this is better than Barbara Q, because you don't need to swap to it. It's an off-field application that you can just try and do. Q free, Constellation free, awesome. I mean, if you just increase the burst levels, she's going to do a ton of more damage, consistent damage. By the way, the amount of damage I can do during Kokomi's Q is about in the order of 300k, which is not bad for a support, honestly. I mean, my Kujasara can't do that. Many of the other supports in the game can't do that. Kokomi does it consistently because you don't need to worry about crit rate. C4 versus C6, arguably we can debate which one's better, but C4 pretty good because what allows you to do is attack faster during your burst, which means doing the free cycle or the end free is better than jump cancelling. Sorry, Kaching mains, that's just the reality of it. And you also restore your energy. A big talking point about Kokomi is that she is energy hungry, but so is a lot of other units in the game. That's not a Kokomi problem. That's just something that is tied to people that have a high burst cost. And if you look at the free-to-play friendly banner, you've got a Shingshu with a Kokomi, so obviously these two can synergize, and the more premium team of Raiden Shogun means you'll never have energy issues. If you don't believe me, watch my Kokomi video where I just expressed, I think it's that's my latest one on Kokomi, where I just do the Raiden Shogun and Kokomi, and I'll use her burst, then I'll swap to Raiden Shogun, do her burst, literally go back to Vespon's burst. There's no energy issues. Once you've got that, energy issues can also be solved with getting the, I think, craftable Yakushin weapon, and with also getting rolling some pretty decent substats. So you want to like get rid of this ugly crit damage, and then you want to substitute that for energy recharge. So there are definitely ways around it. Not a major issue in my opinion. Let's go to the next constellation, the jellyfish. Jellyfish is OP. I've talked about it many times. Quick summary. Why on earth do you want to go to enemies when you can draw them in? The same principle applies to Ayaka's elemental burst. A lot of people complain and say, well, enemies step out of it. Yeah, but they can also step into it, and it's your job to properly dictate the flow of the battlefield. That's a very advanced technique that a lot of people don't talk about, especially Kaching mains, because they're all about how you should do your burst rotations instead of how to actually manipulate the battlefield using desynchronized rotations, which we've covered elsewhere. Pretty advanced topics, pretty fun, but that's a discussion for another video. Last one is essentially just a 40k hydro damage bonus for 4 seconds every time you hit the enemy. And I say it's every time because this condition is it's always automatically fulfilled. You can see here in this little sample video, all my characters are pretty much dead. I've only got Kokomi, and what you'll see now is I'm going to go in, show you my 90% hydro damage bonus, and now we're going to go pop her ultimate, and we're going to attack the enemies, and now I'm going to show you her hydro damage bonus. It's 130. So it triggers regardless, and here's what the wording says. When any party member, and it should say with any party member, including Kokomi herself, because that's how it works. Even if all your party members are all dead, as long as you've got more than 80k HP, this thing triggers. So the condition here is pretty much just, I just think it's, in some very niche situations, it won't trigger unless you don't play Kokomi properly or you've got a very strange build. That covers all the myth busting I wanted to do about Kokomi. I think she's absolutely an awesome unit. A lot of people sleep on her, they don't know how to use her correctly. They don't know how to sort of see her in a team comp or like visualize how you should properly use her. On my channel, we actually do it, but we obviously run the premium team comps. But there are enough free-to-play examples out there that showcases this awesome girl's power. We all love Kokomi, and if you don't, then just go away. Haters will always hate, but for those of us that can recognize her true potential and actually bring it out, she's been quite a joy to have. Cheers.